Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I'm your host. This week's episode is with Lauren Rosen. She is a licensed therapist located in California. She's also an advocate online on Instagram. I will make sure to tag all of her links in the description of this podcast. We talked a lot about obsessive compulsive disorder as well as anxiety disorders in general, and our experience with sobriety. She also has experience with eating disorders, and she sees a lot of patients for that as well. And she taught me about a new method for OCD that I didn't know about called ACT, or Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. And I did not know about that. So that was awesome to learn. It's always good to learn new things. And I learned a lot from this podcast. And I also opened up about my OCD and what I've struggled with, and something that almost took me out. I literally wanted to take my life at one point because of this. So if you have any questions for me about it, or are confused and did not know this about me, or have questions about it in general, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk about it, love to answer it. This is the first time, I'm shaking, my voice is shaking right now, that I have shared about this on my podcast. So I want everyone to know that it gives me a lot of anxiety, but I had to do it because somebody else out there is going to hear this, and they're going to be glad that I did. That's all I'm going to say. So let's get right into the episode with Lauren Rosen.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And so I kind of want to start out by let all the guests introduce themselves rather than doing this big. I'll do a little intro after we record. But yeah, I don't want to butcher your name either. So I will just say this is Lauren, and you can introduce yourself so I don't have to try to butcher your last name, because it could come one of two ways. So
fair enough. Well, so I'm Lauren Rosen. I was McMeekin up until, maybe a year ago when I got married. So awesome. That's one of my middle names now, but which was way harder to pronounce for everybody involved. But so I'm Lauren Rosen. I'm a licensed therapist. I am the director of the Center for the Obsessive Mind, and we're an outpatient clinic specializing in treating OCD, anxiety disorders, eating disorders. And I'm based in Southern California, though I treat people in a fair amount of states now, actually. I work with people in Florida, Utah, Nevada. Potato.
Yeah, it's potato.
And I'm hoping soon Oregon. So awesome. Yeah. Other than that, I am on Instagram. I do a fair amount of advocacy work on social media.
Yeah, you do a lot of lives. I need to catch up with you on the lives. I'm not good with doing lives at all.
Well, we record our podcast Purely OCD live on Instagram so that people can interact. And so that's, so that's my podcast that I co-host with my colleague and best friend, Kelly Frankie, who's also a licensed psychotherapist. And that's pretty much the gist of me. I work with people. I write sometimes. I'm a podcaster now. And
how long have you been doing the podcast?
Since 2020, actually.
Pandemic. So pandemic influenced a lot of podcasts.
Yeah. Pandemic podcast, I guess. And in addition to that, it probably is worth mentioning, I'm pretty open about this on the podcast and generally, that in addition to treating the disorders that I do, I am in recovery from OCD. I was diagnosed with and treated for OCD in 2010 after probably 17 years of having it undiagnosed in retrospect. And then I got sober in 2005. I know that's something that we talked about, I think, when we had our Instagram live. So been sober for a hot minute now. And then I also am in recovery from an eating disorder as well. So, that was back in 2008 that I really started my recovery from an eating disorder journey in earnest. Although they're all a process, I don't think it's like,
oh yeah,
and now you're done, because you live with your thoughts, and it's not like years of the way that your mind works changes overnight. It just doesn't happen. So
that's why I never say I'm recovered from anything. It's recovering. It's very crucial to use that wording, I think, personally.
That's certainly true of my experience as well. Yeah.
I've heard people say that, well, I don't really hear it about OCD but I hear it from alcoholics, addicts, whatever you want to call it. And I've heard people say, yeah, I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'm like, all right. I mean, if that works for you, it's not me, but
to each their own, and that's, because there are people within the eating disorder community who talk about being recovered as well. And that's just never a term that's resonated for me. It's not like, and I think it's important to acknowledge that that's not to say that I haven't made great strides in my relationship.
Of course.
These things are totally different. And the reality is I rarely have a craving for alcohol. Rarely. And I have no intention of drinking these days. And, I have a totally different relationship with food and with my thoughts related to body and with my body. And I also have a totally different relationship with my thoughts and feelings related to my OCD, my intrusive thoughts, my anxiety. So recovering, I agree, is important from the vantage point that it's almost a practice, right? You get up and you live your life and you practice responding differently to these things, these desires, these thoughts, these feelings. But I don't know that there's an arrival point from my vantage point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely big accomplishments and, strides that have been made, and obviously progress that has been made. But to say I'm done, I'm good, doesn't work for me. And also I feel like, to me saying that will open up Pandora's box again, and I'll do something stupid. I have that awareness now that I didn't have before, because I've been, when it comes to OCD, I've been working on OCD on and off, more so on the last few years. But I was diagnosed when I was 13, 14, and I'm 32 now. So, over half my life, I've known I have OCD, and I've been on medication most of the time, but as far as working on it, it's been off and on, and I never really challenged it as much as I have until the last couple of years. And that came after I was, done self-medicating myself for many, many years. And on top of the medication that I was supposed to be taking, which probably wasn't working because I was doing all this other stuff with my brain. And so, I went completely off everything. And I always have to explain to people, because when I tell people, some of my newer friends that aren't in recovery, because a lot of my friends are in recovery, but from substance abuse in general, I have to remind them that, I don't do any mind-altering drugs. That includes weed, okay? Don't offer me weed. I don't do that. I get it, but it's more and it's more casual, it's legal. So is alcohol. So just don't, I can't do it. It's not something I can do responsibly as far as I know, based on my track record. No, thank you. I mean, it's not the thing that took me down, but still, it's not. I don't want that in my life. And it's, yeah. I have to explain that to people because they're like, you don't even do this? And it's like, no, I don't.
No.
None of it.
I'm with you. I'm of the mind that I have no desire to figure out whether or not I have that capacity these days. And
yeah, I'm just like I'm good. I've seen enough like good things happen not doing it that I'm just like, why?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I get it. And it's not, like I said, it's rare that I have a craving these days. And at the same token, it's not to say there aren't moments where I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to, you know, have it, but it's not worth it from my vantage point to risk everything that I've built as a result of not, you know, in this life, not drinking that or using substances you know.
I have the convenience of living in Iowa where it's still illegal. So I got that. I have that extra thing, but also I live on the border of Iowa and Illinois. I could literally cross the bridge and buy weed legally and then cross the bridge and get arrested for it. It's so funny to me.
That is funny.
It's definitely a working joke for sure. I tell a lot of jokes about when it comes to stand up. I talk about drug use and stuff, but I can't put a lot of that online because I have to keep my job. So,
yes, sure.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just joking. I don't use it. Never used drugs in my life. So
yeah,
any of my work people are listening, which some of them do. But most of them know I'm in recovery. Like I work for a company that's pretty open about being yourself and who you really are. And, you know, that's part of my story. I mean, I wouldn't be working for this company if I didn't, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, get my shit together because I was a mess for a long time. And I wouldn't even apply for this job because I would have been afraid to take a drug test. But then they didn't drug test me. And I was like, what? I was so mad. I was so upset.
You're like, I would have passed.
I would have passed. I wouldn't have to worry about it this time. But nope. You know,
you still didn't have to worry about it though. That was nice.
No, I didn't. I was like, oh, we have an office in Denver. Now I know why. Okay. Yeah, that's like the running joke, but
that's funny.
But yeah, when it comes to OCD and yourself, is there a certain like subtype that you fall under? Because that's what I talked to Jenna earlier, and we were talking a little bit about subtypes, and because not a lot of people understand the different subtypes of OCD. Is there a certain one that you fall under or that you've dealt with more?
You know, over the course of my life, I've watched it has over time. I think it grabs on and latches on to different things in different moments. So I can say when I was young, like when I was 6 or 7, when it first started, it was very much existential. And there were lots of thoughts like, oh my gosh, but what if I don't go to heaven? But then what if I do go to heaven and then I don't like it? What if like eternity is a really long time? So what if I'm not happy in eternity and there's nothing I can do about it?
Deep thinking 7-year-old.
Yeah. My parents were like, I have no idea what to tell you. Like, and so
I don't know how to answer that question. That's a good question.
But you know, it's interesting. I didn't get treatment. Like I said, I didn't get diagnosed until I was in my 20s. And I don't know how, but I found a lovely therapist who was not specialized to my knowledge in OCD, who helped me to tolerate and accept uncertainty around it, which was a game changer for me with that. But then that went away, and then, you know, it latched onto all sorts of things. And I think I've noticed that my anxiety will just has hooked into all these different things throughout my life. And we might, from a clinical perspective, if I were to look at myself, not that I can objectively, but if I were, I would notice that, okay, well, sometimes it was more of a social anxiety than anything. And then it would sort of transition and I'd have anxiety about my body and how I looked and how other people were thinking about me, which you can see, like there's even some melding in with the social anxiety and the eating disorder. Because it wasn't just the body piece, but it was then I would start to manage and control my food in ways that weren't helpful and that were, that made me very sick. Then
so working against each other kind of thing.
Oh, what, in terms of the anxiety?
Yeah, the anxiety and the eating disorder and everything just working all against you, kind of.
Well, exactly. And I think actually the marriage of the anxiety about my body and the response of restricting food, purging, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It makes total, it's very similar in many ways to a compulsion. It's a way to try and manage and control your discomfort around the possibility of what your body's going to look like. And so I've just, like I said, I've watched it hop from thing to thing to thing throughout my life. And while from a DSM perspective, we wouldn't say that that's all the same thing. I tend to see it as different permutations of a general tendency toward being anxious. Right? Like and in fact, I talk about this. I've talked about this on our podcast on Purely OCD too. I think my brain works a certain way. And I think that it's interesting because today in our community, somebody, right, we were talking about it before we came on, somebody came out and said, like, here are the benefits of having OCD. And this is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's good to have OCD because you're going to be super organized.
No.
That being said, I think of OCD as a problem-solving mechanism gone horribly awry, because you start trying to solve problems that are not problems and that have no solution. So if I have a thought, like I did at 7, of like, well, what if I don't like eternity? That's a really long time. Well, especially with that, there is absolutely no solution to that. And there's no answer to it. So, so my brain, I was constantly trying to resolve it because I was very good at problem solving. I was smart. I did well in school. The problem was that I was applying this technique that served me so well in so many aspects of my life to something that it was never going to work with. I was never going to be able to resolve the fact that I felt anxious, or that there was this uncertainty that just was floating out there, and that still is, frankly.
Yeah, you're kind of a young philosopher too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a question that you cannot answer, and that's just only going to make you anxious trying to answer it.
Right. And to different degrees, that's all of anxiety, OCD. You take something like social anxiety.
What if?
You can't know whether or not somebody likes you. Even if they tell you they like you, you can't know it, right? Because you could never be on the inside of somebody else's head. Yeah. And you can't know whether or not you're going to have a panic attack. Just doesn't, like, there's no possibility, and you can't control the feelings of panic either. So, or if you have obsessions about sexual orientation, right? Like, talk about a nebulous topic that most of us fall on a spectrum of, rather than into these black and white categories that those of us with anxiety and OCD tend to be such fans of. Like, I just want to put it into a box, right? I want to have an answer for it. It's just, most of life isn't that clear. And I think that's true of most anxiety disorders, is like, I just want like a definitive answer. I want to know for sure. And yeah, good luck.
Yeah, getting that 100% is pretty impossible, and you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Way easier said than done.
For sure. It is. And yet, I will say that the trying to figure it out is not easy either.
No.
And so, yes, easier said than done to disengage, to drop the attempts to resolve the uncertainty and to get rid of the anxiety that came along with it. But it's also really, really difficult to try to get the resolution. And so if you're going to do something, if you're going to work hard at something, you might as well work hard at the challenge that's going to get you into a life that you want more.
Which, are you a advocate for ERP then?
Yes, 100%. I am an advocate for ERP. I'm also an advocate for acceptance and commitment therapy. It's a big part of the work that I do.
That one I don't know a lot about. So tell us a little bit about that, because I know a lot about ERP. So
yeah,
I've done it, and I've talked to me and Jenna talked about it a lot earlier too. So I'd love to hear about other techniques as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, acceptance and commitment therapy is another evidence-based treatment for OCD, and it's often within the community used as an adjunct to ERP.
Addition.
Yeah, exactly. And the two they work really well together. So essentially, from an ACT perspective, it's very mindfulness based. So we get into trouble because we're trying to manage and control our thoughts and feelings. And so we do all of these behaviors that they call them control strategies to try to alleviate the discomfort or, whatever feelings you don't want or the thoughts that you don't want. And all of these behaviors take us further and further away from the things that we care about.
Yeah.
Like the kind of people that we want to be, the kind of lives that we want to lead. And so ACT, so it stands for acceptance and commitment therapy. It's acceptance of it's in many ways very similar to in 12-step, the Serenity Prayer. It's accepting what you can't change, changing what you can, and knowing the difference between those two things. So often we in ACT, there's this practice of cognitive diffusion. So the ability to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the objective observer of your thoughts. Like, oh, look, there's a thought, which is all mindfulness. But they have some fun exercises that are really helpful in getting that distance. So like singing your thought to the tune of a song, for instance, is a diffusion exercise. I personally like to use Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball as much as is humanly possible, because it's fantastic for such undertakings.
Yeah, that song is so catchy. Yeah, it's hard. yeah.
Well, there's like an almost yodel like that happens, like the it's enjoyable. And it can't help but make me laugh a little bit. That really, which helps with diffusion. Acceptance is one of the core principles, not surprising given the name of the therapy. The idea of self as context. So the idea that you are the space in which all of these thoughts and feelings and urges and sensations are happening. So, and that you're sort of, Stephen Hayes, who's one of the forefathers of ACT, has this quote that I love that says, "You are large enough to contain all of your experiences," which I love.
Yeah.
Because I think it is, isn't it? So we're so afraid that there's going to be this thing that we can't experience that's too much for us. I think a lot of people with anxiety, myself included, have fallen into that category, or with depression. So the idea is that we're the space in which things are happening. There are tools like so basically there's a skill set called expansion, where you open to your feelings instead of sort of wincing and shutting down, and you breathe in, you make space for your feelings instead of trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And then a lot of work around values. Like what kind of a person do I want to be in any given set of circumstances, independent of what the externals are in any circumstance. It's who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? What qualities, this is values, do I want to embody? And keeping those at the forefront and letting those guide the committed actions that you want to be taking. Okay.
Yeah, that's a new one. I haven't really heard about that, which is great, because I've heard so much about ERP, which is great. And I didn't know there was another proven method that helps with ERP. And then I like that they work together, because I know many people say if you just use this and not ERP, you would probably get outlawed from the community if you said something like that.
Well, I don't know about outlawed. I think, but I do think that the community is very invested in evidence-based practices, which I really appreciate as somebody who was in therapy for a long, long time without getting the help that I needed. But no, I agree. There needs to be diversity in terms of what skills we can offer and act. I personally and professionally find it to be very helpful. And I think the real difference, it's interesting. So there's the inhibitory learning model of OCD. I don't know how much you know about this. But I'll try to make it as not technical and obnoxious as possible. But I think the idea is that for a long, long time, the world of OCD treatment, of behavioral treatment, especially ERP, was based on this idea of habituation, which it's true, right? If you continue to face something over and over again, generally your anxiety around it is going to go down, right? We habituate to things. And it actually happens, interestingly enough, with foods too, right? If you're allowed to have whatever food you want, and let's say you're eating pizza every night for 30 days, you're going to like the pizza more probably on night 1 than you are on night 30, right? Because you're going to get used to it. It's just going to sort of not be as interesting. So that was the emphasis, and not that it doesn't happen. Habituation does, like I said, happen. That being said, a lot of people put the emphasis on habituation, and in so doing, I think a lot of people thought, oh my gosh, well, if my anxiety is not going away, I'm not getting better. And that emphasis on my anxiety has to go away in order for me to be okay, I think is very limiting, especially because it does tend to hop around from theme to theme to theme. And so if you've gotten a sense of wellness related to one thing, then something else pops up and you're going to get anxious about that. And then it's like, well, now I'm screwed. So I think instead of the emphasis being on let's do exposure to each individual thing and habituate to every trigger that exists, which isn't really, it's not efficient because
not practical.
No, I mean, most people with OCD can tell you that they could be triggered by very random things, like just walking by a place where they've previously been in an anxiety spike can be a trigger. So I think the emphasis within the inhibitory learning model has shifted, and it's more of a theoretical lens that the community has tended to prioritize in recent years. And the emphasis is on distress tolerance rather than habituation. So how can we get better at feeling our feelings rather than how can we make our feelings go away? And then the inhibitory learning model talks a lot about how we learn and how we can support people in learning through ERP. So they talk about the fact that when we're surprised, we learn better. And so consolidating learning in moments where somebody does something that they didn't think that they were capable of is really important and helps to sort of implant that in their minds. And also informs the fact that we're not necessarily as focused on doing exposures gradually these days, where it's like, I'm going to do a level 3 exposure and then I'll work up to 4, 5, 6, 7. That it's like, you can do a 3 and then do an 8. And that actually helps to support learning more as well. And that surprise factor is part of that too. So there are lots of interesting elements of inhibitory learning, but the idea is not that you get used to it, that the anxiety goes away per se. It's that you develop other associations with the things with the triggers. And it has this emphasis on distress tolerance, which kind of dovetails into acceptance and commitment therapy, where the total emphasis is on distress tolerance, and the aim is not to get rid of any feelings. In fact, getting rid of the feelings is the problem.
Yeah. You can't just delete feelings. It doesn't work that way.
No. In fact, but that's the thing, right? Like, this goes back to the problem.
So what we want to do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Is like, oh, I want to get rid of this feeling. But that's exactly what gets most people to treatment.
Is accepting the feeling.
No, like most people come to treatment because they've been trying so hard to get rid of the feeling.
That's what gets them to the treatment. Okay. I misheard you. Yeah. Okay.
No. Yeah. Does that make sense though?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
Definitely learn a lot here. I appreciate it. One thing I wanted to ask you is, as far as first of all, I didn't ask you this at the beginning. How long have you been in the therapy game practicing?
So I have been working as a therapist since 2015. So I guess
about 7
going
years.
On almost 8. Yeah.
Yeah, almost 8 years. That's awesome.
Of course, there's a long process of getting licensed that you're probably aware of since you've talked to lots of therapists.
Yeah, I've heard, and it's made me a little bit scared to do it myself. Not scared, but just jumping through all the hoops and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm an impatient person, so that doesn't help either.
Yeah, fair enough.
And and I have this weird relationship when it comes to school. So, but also when I was in school last time, school wasn't the main focus. So
yeah, there is that. Yeah.
So it's a little different. But I've also been in the quote unquote real world for a while working, and it's like, do I really want to become a student again? I don't know. It's an idea, and it's something that I'm thinking about, and I'm just kind of like leaving it for lack of as being in recovery, like just leaving it up to my higher power, just letting it go and seeing what happens and not trying to push it. And I know it's something I want to do. I just don't know when yet.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to rush it. So,
yeah.
And I have a decent, like I said, I have a decent job. I make a decent living now, and I'm good at what I do. I'm comfortable where I'm at for the most part. So
yeah,
it's like, and I'm also doing other things, with the comedy stuff. And that's another thing where it's like, the more I've done it and the more I do it, the easier it is for me to do. There's less fear behind it. And people have noticed that. They're like, you look really comfortable on stage. I'm like, I'm still pretty uncomfortable, but you can't really tell as much.
Yeah. Well, you're better at feeling your discomfort, right?
Exactly. It's like, I know this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where I'm just like, you know what? I don't really care. And the less I care, the better it goes. And and the less I try to really over prepare my jokes and stuff, and you got to say this, you got to say that. Or if I try to read off of a cheat sheet or something, then it doesn't turn out as well. And I've just been learning that and adapting. And but yeah, comedy itself has been very therapeutic for me and really helped me with fear and facing my challenges with OCD, because I've had a lot of I've noticed it more recently where I'll want to do a compulsion. I'm just like, no, I'm just not doing that.
Nope.
I'm good. It's not happening.
Thanks, though.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation.
I'm not entertaining this. I'm just going. I'm done. I don't care what happens. And I know nothing's probably going to happen because my logical brain knows that. But then there's the other OCD brain, because that's a good way I like to describe it. And I know other people describe it that way. You have the logical brain, then you have your OCD brain, which is, and sometimes the OCD brain takes over depending on how you're feeling. I know when I'm in more stressful situations, my OCD tends to take over a little bit more, and I give in to compulsions a little bit easier. But sometimes,
well, it's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes I'm just really tired. Excuse me, and I'm just like, no, I'm too tired. I don't want to deal with this.
It's interesting though. Yeah, I totally get that where it's like, no, thanks. And I think that's a good response.
I don't have the energy for you right now. Yeah.
No. It's interesting when you talk about your logical brain versus the OCD brain. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it in what you were saying too. I think what differentiates, I think that you can always access rationality. It's the feelings though that change.
Yeah.
And sometimes there is this sense of urgency that comes with, these thoughts. Sorry. There's sometimes this sense of urgency that comes with these thoughts that makes it more challenging to drop compulsions. And yeah, does that make sense?
Run that by me one more time. You lost me in the middle there for a second.
So when you say like OCD, it's my logical mind versus my OCD mind. I think generally speaking, what people are talking about is not that their ability to access logic changes. Yeah. Right? Logic is still there. You're still aware of the logic. Yeah. It's that there's this feeling there now that the sense of urgency, maybe an increased anxiety that makes the choice not to engage in compulsions more difficult. Yeah. So it's not like there's a switch that goes off and you no longer have access to what makes sense to do. Yeah. It's just more.
The doubt takes over a little bit more.
Well, and the feeling, unless you're willing to feel that feeling, right? It's gonna push you to do behaviors that you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I've definitely been there, and it just depends on, there's a variety of factors I've noticed depending on different situations. Where I'm more stressed out or just more and generally just anxious about everything, then I know the logical part's still there, but the logical part doesn't have as much power as the OCD part does sometimes.
Well,
not as often, but like I said, it's gotten a lot better, and I'm very grateful for that, and that helps. And that's from doing, being in therapy and challenging those thoughts and putting myself in uncomfortable situations multiple times, and doing so on a regular basis keeps those compulsions in check and kind of makes me realize how much I'm trying to explain this. Basically, it makes it so it's easier for me to resist the compulsions. The more I put myself in those uncomfortable situations where I'm like, oh, this isn't even that bad anymore, because I've done it so many times.
Well, and I think that's where you get better at having the experience. You get better at facing the discomfort. It's just like, oh yeah, I've done this before. I know how to do this. And there's an empowerment that comes with that.
Yeah. And there's been a couple times where my therapist has suggested that I do certain things for, as exposures and to challenge me. And I remember early on, and I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that.
No, thank you.
Not ready for that. Don't like that idea at all.
Yeah.
What else you got? I'm not ready for that yet.
I will say that's one of the things that I love about ACT is like the focus is really on exposures that serve the kind of life that you want to live. So there's a lot of inherent motivation to do them. If you have like pedophile themed obsessions where you're like, oh my gosh, what if I want to hurt a child? And you happen to have a niece or a nephew that you want to be spending more time with, then spending time with them is something that it may be really scary. And at the same token, it brings with it this, you know what, that's the life I want to live though. This is the thing that this disorder has taken from me. So screw that. Like, I'm going to do the thing. And as opposed to sometimes I think the more arbitrary, like, let's just do this exposure. People are like, why would I want to do that? Sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
In that, yeah. Places,
in that sense, like people like, yeah. Using that example, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, nieces or nephews, or if you want to have kids someday, like, I've been in that subtype before.
Yeah.
And it's the scariest one I've ever had to deal with.
Yeah.
And for a while I was like, I'm not going to have kids because I can't deal with it. Like, I don't want to have to deal with this every day and, be scared that I'm going to hurt some kid or something, or my kid. And so I was like, well, if that kids are out, that's not happening. But now I've changed and, realized, because I didn't know what the heck was going on. I didn't know it was an OCD thing really until, I talked to more people about it. I actually used, I looked online, and I think I looked on, because I've known about OCD for a long time, since like its inception. The founder, Stephen, I can never his last name. Stephen Smith reached out to me, or I reached out to him, I can't remember, a long time ago when I was blogging. And I did a blog post about OCD before they were doing therapy, when it was just the app, and it was just a community. And I remember looking on the forums that they have on the community, and like I was like, oh, a lot of other people deal with this. But it's not like open in public, because it's like taboo, and it's just like, and even until like the last year, I think Jenna was the first person to get me to talk about it, because I was scared to talk about it with anyone and publicly, because it's like, I don't want somebody taking this the wrong way and thinking, oh, this guy, I can't have this guy around my kid. It's like, no, really, if anything, I'm like extremely cautious, and not as much anymore. And I'll like purposely put myself in situations where I'll say like hi to someone's kid that I see, like just as an exposure on its own, like on purpose. Like, even though I haven't really been struggling with it that much lately, I'll still do it just in case like that starts creeping up on me again, I am ready, or it won't creep up on me because I'm actively doing damage control, I get, for lack of a better way to put it. And that's the subtype that really took me. That's when I started using drugs heavily. That's when I started like drinking a lot, because I was like, I'm this terrible person, and because I didn't know. And I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with this. I was suicidal for a while, and so it's scary. And there's and the harm OCD can be very, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of subtypes of OCD that it's all scary. And it can all be very scary, but that's the one where it's just like, where it's harder to talk about, I think, because people
might misunderstand.
People might misunderstand what you're really talking about, like you're white. Like you're having these thoughts, so that makes you a bad person. And that's like, that was my initial thought, like, oh, you're having these thoughts, so you're a bad person, or you believe these thoughts, or this is somehow something you want, but it's not. So, and I've realized that, but it took me a while to get there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the reality is that in treatment, most people will go, but what if it's not OCD? And what if I actually do like these thoughts? Right. Which is, I think, really important to acknowledge, and there's uncertainty that most people find themselves having to accept around that too. And if that makes sense, I don't know if that's part of your experience, but I agree. Like, I think from an outsider's perspective, hopefully more and more people are understanding that having thoughts is not indicative of who you are, or what actions you would take.
Well, yeah, I used to have thoughts when I was younger that I was somehow going to cause a terrorist attack in my head
right.
Yeah. Like, obviously I didn't want that to happen. And I could easily explain that to somebody. They'd be like, oh yeah, I don't see you being a terrorist. Yeah. But,
right. But it is interesting because I think there are a lot of different subtypes that can be misunderstood, and like postpartum OCD.
That's a new one I've learned about. I learned about that one from Jenna. Jenna's getting a lot of shout outs on this one.
Yeah. Yo, Jenna.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think postpartum. I also think that each subtype, and look, they're all OCD, right? Like we group them into subtypes because it's helpful for people to be able to recognize their own experience in somebody else and feel a little less alone. But I look at things like sexual orientation OCD or relationship OCD, and those things.
We talked about that, and that's a new one for me that I've been working on.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's this tendency talking about that with other people who aren't in the OCD community, that people think, oh, well, you're having doubt. We should definitely talk about this. We should try to figure this out. And so while it's not necessarily problematic in the same way, like it might be misunderstood with POCD or harm OCD, all of that, PPOCD, postpartum. But it's also problematic because people still don't understand that trying to answer the question is not in anyone's best interest. Do you know? Like some people are like, oh, you're doubting your sexual orientation. Well, maybe you're not gay, or maybe you're not bi, or maybe, like whatever the thing is. And it's like, that's not what the person needs. The person needs to say like, you know what, we're not going to try and figure that out. And same with relationship OCD. But so there's all of these different pitfalls that come with a lack of understanding from the general community about OCD, all sorts of ways that it can be mishandled as a result of that. And we see that often in terms of people with OCD in talk therapy going over and over and over the same information with their clinicians, who are, potentially very well-intentioned people, just don't understand how it works. Yeah. I mean, the clinicians. So I think, it was interesting too. One of the things that you said about continuing with exposures, I think is really important. And I kind of see it. I see everything through my own lens, obviously. How else would I see it? Yeah. But the values piece, I think, comes into play too, is, I think sometimes people say, oh, I want to keep doing exposures so that I don't get anxious again, right? Or that I don't have thoughts. And from my vantage point, it's much more interesting. Like, let's continue to do exposures because that's the kind of person that you want to be. I imagine, knowing you, what little I do, that like you care about being a friendly person, like that's something that you'd like to embody. It's like kindness.
Yeah.
And that one reflection of that is saying hello to children when you walk by them, right? Like, oh, hi.
Acknowledging.
Right? Yeah. And smiling and all of that. So yeah, it's an exposure, which also like supports you and just sort of, facing the things that cause you anxiety and learning and practicing, back to practicing dealing with it differently. But it's more because that's the human you want to be than it is about trying to ward off potential anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't look at it that way necessarily when I'm doing it, but I go out of my way to do it on purpose for a variety of reasons. But yeah, one, just because I like being a nice person. And sometimes, I'll say hi to a kid and they're just basically like, I don't care.
Yeah. They're like stone faced. They're like,
oh yeah, I forget they're kids and they don't care.
They don't care. They're like, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Or like when I was trying to have conversations with my cousins, as they've gotten older, we've had better conversations. But I remember when they were like 13, 14, 15, and they were just like, I couldn't have a conversation because they were just like this all the time. Always on the phones. And I'm just like, so I remember like the last conversation, one of the last conversations where was like, I'm gonna talk to him about, because I was just getting on TikTok, and I was like, I kind of know how TikTok works, but just to start a conversation, I was like, so what do you think I should do on TikTok? Or like, how should I approach TikTok? I know you guys have been on TikTok for a while, and that kind of got a conversation going, but I still got pretty stonewalled on that one as well. But
it happens.
Yeah. So it's like realizing that, and at first, like, I'd have conversations with people, and I'd be like, oh, they don't like me, or they think I'm weird, or they think I'm creepy. And, that was the OCD part of my brain going, oh, yeah, you are a weirdo, or they know that you're this monster, and those type of thoughts. And I think what my OCD did, because over time, because like I said, I didn't always have these type of thoughts. It kind of hit me when I was in my early 20s, and I've been dealing with OCD since I was in my teens. So I think what my OCD did, because I kind of treat it like a demon, and in a way, it's kind of a dark way to put it, but that's kind of how I see it. And it chose the worst thing it could, in my opinion, to start challenging me on. And for a while it was winning that challenge.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm just going to stay away from kids. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to avoidance. And then I was like, you know what? I want to live. I want to deal with this. And that's when I started doing ERP and really learning about it, and realizing that, I'm not this terrible person, and I worked on it, and it's something I continue to work on today. But like I said, just until over this last year, I would not tell anyone about that.
Yeah. Well, good for you for being open about it. I know that it's really helpful for people to know that they're not alone.
That's the only reason I'm doing it. That's the main reason I'm doing it, is because it's helpful for me to talk about it. But at the same time, I'm like, oh man, somebody's going to hear this and they're not going to understand it. But for the people that do understand, they're like, oh, I've had these thoughts, and I feel like that's why I'm talking about it, because because I know I felt like I was the only one that had these type of thoughts, or that no one else was going through it, and I didn't know who to talk to about it. And I just felt stuck for a long time, and I'm glad I'm not in that place anymore. And I'm at a place where I can be like, hey, you know what? This is not me. This goes against all of my values, all of these thoughts and obsessions. And it's, the reason why I see stuff about OCD, and, the benefits of OCD, and, or people talking about, oh, I'm so OCD about this. And that's why it frustrates me when I hear stuff like that. People might think, oh, he's just getting triggered by that. No, because I know how serious this can be, and how debilitating it can be, and almost crippling to some people. And that's why I've been more open about it, because I know I don't want other people to feel like they're alone dealing with it.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. And I think that's why all of us
Jenna helped inspire me to do that, because she shares about hers, like, she just throws it all out there. I'm just like, the first time I talked to her, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you are, and I didn't judge her at all, because I was like, I get it. I totally get everything you're saying, because I have it too. I have OCD too, and I totally get it. And she was just so open about it. And the more people that can do that, and the more people that are open about their experiences with OCD and what they've struggled with, and how they've, been able to live with it and battle it and continue to get better over time is awesome and something more people want to hear about. And I'm glad to share about it now, but it's still in the back of my mind, like, oh man, you just shared way too much stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think that's what, you know, again, through my own lens, but this is what like living out your values is. You want to be a supportive person in this community. You speak out about like what your experience is to help people feel less alone. And part of that involves taking on a substantial amount of anxiety about other people misunderstanding, and that's the price you pay for being the kind of person that you want to be. And that's like accepting that anxiety is probably what's going to lead you to live a more fulfilling, meaningful life. And I know that that's been true for me as well. Like, speaking out, sharing about my own experience to like a limited degree, I think as a clinician, and everyone's different.
It's a little different. Yeah,
it is. I don't necessarily talk about everything that's going on because I don't want it to come up in the room, and I never want it to be about me. Right.
That makes sense.
So, but I think having an openness has always been important to me, and helping other people know that they're not alone, that there is support. But it's not without its drawbacks, right? And people don't understand. And then there are like angry trolls and stuff like that, like
I've seen the trolls.
they're fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, it's like, I would take that time and time again, because that is worth it for me to show up in the way that I want to show up and be the kind of person that I want to be.
Yeah. I will gladly deal with the trolls or the haters or whatever you want to call it. I'm like, I'm past that. I'm not worried about that anymore.
No.
Not to say that it won't like affect me a little bit, but I'm not invincible.
Yeah.
I still have feelings, and but at the same time, I know that people that come after people are usually in a really bad place.
For sure. But that's what ERP is, right? It's going into something knowing that it's going to potentially cause you pain. Like, you're not going into it. It's okay if it impacts you because you're a human, right? Mm-hmm. And people saying unkind things about us as humans is generally a challenging experience. It's not about not feeling the thing. It's, courage is showing up even when it is hurtful and saying, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, even though it is hurtful and uncomfortable. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. This is only my second time talking about it on a podcast. I've never talked about it on my podcast. I talked about it on Jenna's podcast. So some of my friends are going to hear this and they're going to learn something that they didn't know. So my closer friends know about it and I've talked to them about it, but some of my other friends are going to be like, oh, I didn't realize it was that was a big issue for you. I'm like, well, it is, and it was, and it's not as big of an issue anymore, but it's something like that. OCD is always there for me, and it will morph and change into different things. I deal with a little bit of the harm OCD and contamination OCD. I've always dealt with that on and off. That's kind of where things started, and that likes to peek its head up every once in a while and kind of remind me that it's still there. And so I deal with that as well, but it's kind of organized chaos right now for the most part. Yeah. So and I keep myself, that's another thing that I like to tell other people is, not to overwhelm yourself, but staying busy and having things to do and look forward to really help me stay in a good mindset where I can deal with those difficult situations a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Sure. So, yeah. I mean, being engaged in your life is what we want, right? Like that's why people come to treatment, is because they're not they're not doing what matters to them. So getting out, and like that's going to support you in accepting feelings and disengaging from compulsions and all of that. If you have commitments, if you have things that matter to you, for sure. I mean, it's like, I don't think of it as let's try to avoid the thoughts or the feelings or any of that. It's just live your life, and that, and then in that, you're going to be presented with all of these challenges that you're going to better learn how to cope with.
Yeah. Avoidance is, it's just only going to make things worse in the long run. The longer you avoid it, the more it builds up in the background.
Well, and you're not living your life. Like you're completely, and like we only get the one to our knowledge as of right now. So that's the thing. Everyone thinks, not everyone, but a lot of people talk about, well, I don't want to continue to do compulsions because it keeps me stuck in the cycle. And I get that. Yes, of course. It becomes like you become more and more dependent. You almost become a slave to these behaviors because it seems more and more important to perform them. But the real issue with compulsions is that they detract from your life. They keep you from being present to the things that matter to you. Right? Like if I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to phrase a question so that I can seek reassurance from someone, I'm not present to the conversation that I'm having with them.
Yeah.
Right. And my whole relationship with them is, or not maybe my whole, but a lot of my relationship with them might be based on just trying to alleviate my anxiety. And that's crummy, right? Like that's not the kind of relationships that I want to have. It's empty and hollow. And in addition to that, you might spend tons of time ruminating. Well, you're completely in your head. You're not engaged with your life. You're off trying to figure out something that happened or whether or not something's true. And the behavioral compulsions, they prevent you from going out and being among your friends or family, right? They're time consuming. They stop you from actively engaging in things that matter. And likewise, avoidance does the same thing. So behaviors are the problem. We think they're the solution, but they're the problem on every level.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed is the way I used to live my life was I was either living in the past or I was living in the future. I was never really focused on the present and what was going on right now. I was always worried about what was going to happen or worried about something that did happen. And I was the present, I was just like coasting. I was there, but I wasn't really living the way I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you weren't there, right? Like you were there physically, but you weren't physically there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate to do this. As you know, I'm going to let you know, because of my back surgery, I can't sit for very no, I can't. I've got this special armchair you can see in the background that I see clients from reclined because I'm not supposed to sit at a 90-degree angle for too long. Apparently,
it's fine. I try to keep the episodes around like an hour-ish anyway because people's attention spans, and I am people.
Me too.
Don't want to listen to podcasts for that long unless they're on like a road trip but I don't have a road trip audience right now. So most of the episodes I try to keep like right around an hour, and I'm also not like, one of those big podcasters. I'm not like Rogan where I can just talk for 3 hours and people are going to listen.
Yeah. Fair enough. Me either.
Yeah. I know Rogan's a hot button person to bring up. Some people don't like him, but that's an example because he's like he's a podcaster that's been doing this for a long time.
And he's got quite the following.
And he could some of his episodes are like 3 hours long, and I don't think I've ever listened to a full episode. Like I'm just like, who has time to listen to 3 hours? Some are 4 or 5. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But no, I like to keep it around an hour and a half at the most and cut it off because it's like at that point, it's just like you kind of lose listeners or lose their attention.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm really glad we finally got a chance to talk, and I definitely learned a lot. I'll probably be asking you random questions about what we talked about once I go through and listen to this. And also, I need to figure out your mic setup. I need to figure out that because I've been struggling with that for a little bit, and I've tried different stuff and it hasn't worked. So
that's it. Saramonic.
Yeah.
Smart rig too.
Yeah, I need to figure that. I need to definitely get that. So it's probably an Amazon purchase or something.
Yeah. Yep. It was, I think. It was a while ago. So, but yeah. Yep. Well, thank you so much for having me on too. It was so good to talk, and thanks for being so open too about your own experience. Like I said, I think that it's so important that people know that they're not alone. So
and thank you for the different therapy methods that I hadn't heard about, and that I know a lot of people will appreciate that information. So I like to give a little education on the podcast as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Well, I will let you go, and you need to take care of yourself. I appreciate you taking the time for me today, and we'll talk soon. Of
course. Okay? Yeah, sounds great. And sorry, it's annoying.
No need to.
I'm like I'm an old lady right now. So.
No need to apologize. I totally get it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Take care of yourself. I'm sorry with everything going on, but I hope that there's lots of room for healing in the coming weeks. And
of course. And I'm going to keep doing episodes because he not only was a guest, he was also an avid listener. I found that out. He listened to every single episode, so he wouldn't want me to stop. So rest in peace, Brad Hand. We miss you, buddy.
No, for sure not.
All right. Well, take care. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. You too. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.